This is AV Super Friends Off the Rails, an almost regularly scheduled open discussion on audio and video in higher education. We'll sound off about our most brilliant ideas, our dumbest mistakes, and everything in between. And because this conversation will almost certainly go off the rails at some point, we'll end up covering just about everything else. And now, the AV Super Friends. For August 23rd, 2024, it's the best-sounding podcast in higher ed. This is the AV Super Friends Off the Rails, with lots of weird audio effects going in the background. Broadcasting live to tape from coast to coast, easternmost to westernmost, northernmost to southernmost, gate post to hitching post. I'm your local host who can boast the most milquetoast and utmost humility. I'm Chris Dechter. Time for another Friday afternoon podcast adventure.
This will be an adventure. That
this
is for
stuff
sure.
To work. What is happening today? All right.
We've been remixed.
Wow.
This is the joys of live streaming from 27 different locations across the country. So let's say hello to today's panel of AV Super Friends. See if this will work. Hold on to your butts. Today I'm joined by a global resonance designer from Kansas City, Jamie Rinehart.
Global resonance.
Only global resonance.
It's hard to hit the globe with a hammer and see how it shakes.
Also joined by a global quality specialist from Corvallis, Oregon, Marc Cholewczynski.
The quality of the whole globe is going to hell. I will tell you that right now.
It's because I was hitting it with a hammer.
Yeah.
Also joined by a future group producer from Greensboro, North Carolina, Larry Darling.
No idea what that means. I have zero.
Means you're a parent. Group producing.
It's only for the future.
Apparently.
Joined by our chief web officer from Bowling Green, Kentucky, Justin Rexing.
Yes, I chief the officer of the webs.
Not sure what that means either. Do companies have a chief web officer?
Yes, they do.
We do.
It's a real job.
Oh, it's a job. It may not be a real job, but... And finally, special guest, a regional paradigm planner from Chapel Hill, North Carolina, Richard Mitchell.
Got all the paradigms.
Mm-hmm. Lots of them.
Good Lord. What's going on today? I'm going to throw this laptop away. How about that?
Yeah, this is...
See, it's like not even stopping. Quit.
Are you running Windows 7?
What is happening?
That's awesome.
Have you
That
tried
sounds
the
like Windows 7.
Yeah.
Firmware Friday.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Well, all right. No, it's aggravating.
This is how the first week of school goes for everybody. Don't worry about it, man.
Yeah. Well, you can... Yeah, this is...
We're going to fix stuff on the fly during the show, see how this goes.
You're gonna all hear
on today's show, we're going to discuss some of the worst AV things we've ever done and yet never admitted to. And we have a listener email on tuning audio in a room. But first, it's not the news, it's some housekeeping. So...
Let's clean this house up.
You want to clean this house up?
Let's go.
No, this is what they call in the parlance of the industry. This is called a call to action, and we're going to start throwing this in here all the time to bug the crap out of everybody because you're supposed to do it, and it's one of those things where
we never do. We never
it.
ask you to do anything. So
We've never done this, and people expect us to do it, and we haven't been doing it. So we're going to make up for 240 episodes of that right now, which is going to be a very long call to action.
We're going to wait. We will wait until you all do it.
So here's those typical things you hear on most shows except ours, but you'll start hearing it from us more often now. So we want you to connect with us on the socials. Go to Twitter. Follow us on Twitter at AV Super Friends. Find us on LinkedIn. I don't know how you find stuff on LinkedIn. Search for it at the top. Just search for AV Super Friends. You'll find it there.
You'll find us.
Same with YouTube. Go to YouTube. Search for AV Super Friends there. I have no idea how else you find stuff on YouTube because we have one of those cool links, but I don't know what it is.
Google will get you there. Trust it.
No. Use YouTube. They are different search engines. Also, spread the word. Tell people about us. So share this podcast with your friends, your colleagues, your enemies, perfect strangers, anyone else who might enjoy it. I would like to personally challenge everyone to each go out and tackle 3 people in public, hold them down, and make them listen to several episodes.
Even if you don't enjoy it, you just better
Especially
listen.
if you don't enjoy it.
Yeah.
Make them listen.
Just tell people you enjoy it.
If you want to support the show, please consider donating. Your contributions are what keep the show running, which right now is based mostly on my Visa
fixing
card.
his laptop, probably.
So we're at -5.
Yeah, we're in the red
much.
right now.
Right.
So donation link is in the show notes as well as on the website there. We do want to hear from you. And in fact, on today's episode, we have a listener email that was going to become one of the segments we're going to discuss. So if you want to, if there's a topic you want us to cover, if you want to talk about something, or reach out on Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube. Well, I guess you can reach out on YouTube.
All
Can you
those
reach out on
things.
YouTube, whatever.
You can.
Or email us mailbag at avsuperfriends.com. Send us that stuff. And finally, the ever popular, be sure to leave a review and rate us on those different platforms. So go to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you are. If you're listening to an Apple Podcast, which I think is still by default the most popular one.
I think so.
Please don't use the Apple Podcast app. It is garbage. Use an actual application from anywhere else. You can use the same RSS feeds, all that stuff. But please go leave a review, and I would suggest leaving something like 5 stars, gluten-free menu, and no wait time, something like that. But
whatever
you
you
might
put
want to
in
make it a
Yelp
little
or
more
whatever you
applicable
use
to
for
the
like
actual
DoorDash.
podcast.
Just throw that in there.
Yes.
That's fine.
All right. So now, where'd it go?
Ooh, here we go.
Things falling apart.
Yeah, that part in the intro, he said our worst mistakes. That's today. Here we
It
are.
was this today.
It was making this show.
So you've waited all week for it, and it's time for the news.
Yeah.
See, that one played fine. What the hell?
We should just play that all the time.
Because
Just
it was
keep
me.
playing that.
That's it. That's the new intro, outro.
That's the drop.
Keep it simple.
All right, so today's news comes from Extron, and we're just going to give you an update on all the newest firmware they've released this week. So it's quite a bit.
We'll just read down it, bug fixes and all. Let's just go.
2.5 hour
We're
show.
going to use the Extron link as the news link, but we're not going to talk about what they're talking about. We're going to talk about what it means. And so Extron announced, I'll just read the title here because it's some PR nonsense.
Go for it.
Extron introduces new drivers to power down AV for a greener tomorrow.
But does it really? Is that what this is about?
No, I'm sure they've got some sort of
Oh,
lead
no.
checkbox that they want. But what they're getting at here is they now, in their default driver set for the, I believe it's for the Netgear switches, they're now providing the capability to enable and disable PoE, which allows them to turn off PoE-powered devices. That's really all they're announcing here. But the most important thing that raises is not from a green standpoint, because who cares? Let's be honest. We're all buying equipment made by child slaves in China. We run it for 10 years and then we throw it in the ocean. We really don't care about green AV. It's not a thing.
2, maybe
We
3.
bury it first just to
15
expand that
years.
carbon footprint.
But what this gets at, I think, more
15.
importantly, is this idea of, remote rebooting of PoE devices and easier access to that sort of thing, and thus remote support and remote troubleshooting of more devices. So we're not simply plugging something in and letting it run for that 10 to 12 years before it gets thrown in the ocean.
But what does it really mean? You said all that, but what does that really mean to us, Chris?
That means we need to build more islands.
Actually, it
No,
just
less
means that you don't have to train a technician on how to get behind the displays to unplug the PoE when said device inevitably locks up and stops working and you need to reboot it. And then you have to explain, well, go to patch number 7, which is in switch port number 17, or access to the web. Oh my God. Hit the button.
But is that what it really means? I feel like it might mean some of that.
Click.
But it,
What do you think it means, Mark? Because
I think it means
you're
that I no
trying
longer
tell
have to
us.
have students get credentialed access to my switches to log in and turn PoE off. I can actually build a page so they can just do it, so I'm not have to elevate their permissions. I think that's the secret sauce here, and where we don't have to have all these outboard PoE injectors with like watt boxes and things like that, power cycling them to be able to do that remote management. Now we can just do it from a web
for all
interface,
of
and the
you
students can have
Island
access.
Network people, they don't care, Mark.
Yeah, that maybe,
give a
yeah.
shit.
Well,
And
they
that
may care, but they
processor
just
was
can't
doing
get
that
there.
anyway. So
Yeah,
And
but
in my
does your switch
case,
at all? Is your switch is 100% off of your network? 100%.
Unfortunately.
which ones? Like my.
How many do you have? Shit, like the one that's in your room.
Well, we got lots of different flavors of switches. What kind of
3
switches are we
switches
talking
per-
about here?
3 switches per room.
Jesus. Well, I guess I'm doing it wrong.
But this would allow, technicians to create self-healing systems. Like, hey, the touch panel, I don't see the touch panel. Reboot it over PoE, right?
Yeah, without having to go into your login
Without
with all
any
that stuff. Yeah,
interaction,
just really quick.
It just a power cycle. It if it do it 3 or 4 times, if it doesn't that happen, send us a
an email.
message.
Just
Now,
keep doing
it's
it.
green because nothing gets broken, and we have to end up spend up hours on end and spinning more cycles. So I get
the green
we'll
is
bend
just
it that
a
way.
vague, a veiled attempt at hiding the fact that this is the easy reboot for when it locks
Yeah.
up.
That's what I mean. That's what it means to me.
Nobody turns these things off. Who turns them off? If you turn your AV over IP encoders and decoders off every weekend. I want to know.
Yeah, we flipped the switch on the wall to turn all the AV systems off in every room.
It's on a last
last one out the door on
Switch.
Friday
If you
afternoon.
have
I throw the
any
lights
kind
out.
of sophisticated system that's not at WKU,
Like the Frankenstein switch at the outside
Yes.
of the building.
Sparks.
Like, sorry, no power.
All of that,
See you on
yes.
Monday.
Now
yeah, I
that's
think
a
it is.
relay.
I have played with that plug-in before with the Netgear switches. I just don't deploy very many of them, and so it's kind of useless to me because if you're putting it all in an enterprise, such as myself,
Humble
you're not
brag.
going to get that. Never.
You know what's
You're
crazy?
never ever going to be able to do this.
Wait, Jamie. So you're saying on your advanced enterprise network, Cisco doesn't provide the same basic functionality as crummy old home only, shouldn't be used in an enterprise network anywhere Netgear.
Well, they do.
You're
But it's
just
Just
not 14
not for
logins to
the
get there.
average schmuck.
And an SSO and all kinds of other
And
stuff.
if you
gotta go
think
through.
that my networking crew is going to allow me to have the API command in order to do this on some random switch that's in the closet somewhere, you're wrong.
But that is exactly the point that Mark raised is does this lead to a different sort of support model for access to these from people who don't need that level of credentialing?
That's how I read it. That was my main takeaway, to be 100%
It
honest.
is, but only if you're in a certain environment, and like that is completely useless to me. So, no,
I don't mean-
that's
I
okay.
don't mean-
Some people are fine, but to me, I'm like, who cares?
I don't mean to pee on our parade here, but the news segment today is actually old news.
It is, yeah, this has been around for a little while now.
QSIS had this a
Exactly.
few months ago.
Yeah. Yep.
And I put it into my 110F here I have in the house. And I was like,
Humble
oh,
brag.
And you got flooded. And that's
So
how it
now-
happened. Yeah.
now I could turn off my encoder and decoder right behind me remotely from this mouse in front of me. That's cool, I guess. And I moved
Of course,
on
when
with
it
my
does
life.
that, it turns off the mouse. So you can't turn it
The extender's gone. Everything's
Didn't do that.
KVM. Shit.
Justin, to your point, this is not necessarily new. This is not something
yeah.
that's come out, and I've got almost 30 rooms deployed like this that have this ability on the advanced tech page to go in and toggle PoE access on ports on the switch one by one for troubleshooting, and it is useful for things like sealing microphone arrays, which are PoE powered, but at the same time, every now and then they go weird, and a quick reboot fixes that. So having the
all
ability
that stuff
for a
that's
student to
designed
go
to
into
just-
a room and do that is just makes life easier for just a straight troubleshooting, and then giving that remote access for remote support is just one more step beyond that. So why not?
Yeah, the stuff that's designed to just quote unquote run forever, just turn it on, go. It will solve that stuff that stops working from time to time quickly.
Nothing
Only if you
stops
use that
working.
noise when you plug it in.
Yeah. Well, that's if you're quoting me when you're up there when on top of the ladder.
This will work forever.
Exactly.
Or long enough till I'm gone.
That's
Long enough to get paid.
that's what I did wrong last week. I
now
didn't
you're
use the
talking like a
quotes.
contractor. Long enough
That's
to
what
get
I'm
paid.
dealing with, man. I'm dealing with a lot of this.
That's how contractors think. Integrators. I'm sorry. Integrators.
how long it's going to cache this, and I got to get across state lines. How long is this got to last?
I do
Are
find
many
it
of you
handy.
using like network power conditioners? Or because ultimately, we're all transitioning
Yeah.
away from that into PoE. So is this just kind of the,
Are
the
we,
next
though?
logical
Are we?
step?
I've been putting power supplies back in on PoE-enabled devices because I want the distinct ability to go in and do that without having to get into the switch. In some
I put them on there
scenarios.
just because they show up in the box. So I'm like double powered. Yay.
PoE, a bunch of other things hanging, just like
plus the wall wart.
random
Hell
LED
with it.
lights flashing.
Been done
around.
what happens.
Not always good for
One
devices.
fails,
No.
the other one takes over. It's
Yeah.
auto magic.
Not
I
how that
wish
works.
it worked like that. I've had more
Yeah, man.
things just lock up and required the PoE up.
Yeah. I'm with you.
Reboot.
But yeah, Richard, to your question, as much as possible, anything I want IP-enabled PDUs for remote rebooting of dumber devices, I guess, for non-PoE devices. For PoE-only devices, the ability to do that over the network switch makes life that much easier because it's that many more tools in your tool belt when troubleshooting because especially as you move an entire campus from, and I know you're going through the same thing, but when I say you, I mean me, especially as me move an entire campus from old school AV, I don't know, it's a big stack of mystery boxes with blinky lights and I turned it off and back on again and that didn't fix it, I'm out of ideas, to there's a whole lot of individual troubleshooting and stuff you can do through software before you get to that point. The more tools you have there, for power access, the more discrete commands you have, the more advanced and the better you can be at that. So
But it's
I do
green.
not.
Yeah. You don't
Why
have
not?
Okay, then.
You just
I
run
do
it.
not.
You don't have any like IP-enabled power sequencing, anything like that. Maybe not sequencing,
it's
but
just a
control.
No, it's just a standard old
Run it.
8-outlet, 10-outlet PDU. Yeah, I don't.
Okay.
So now that I'm back at the university, I'm just taking notes on stealing all your ideas and then presenting
good,
them
man.
as brand new ideas. Like,
We don't stand behind any of these ideas.
Just like Justin's room.
We're just like consultants. We don't say it's going to work. We say try
I got all
it.
kinds
Give it a
of
shot. It
ideas
might
for you,
work for you.
Richard.
Yeah.
I find most of the time the thing that needs rebooted is the thing that I'm relying on to control the reboot thing.
I will say, and I remember running into this a lot when I was at OSU, every now and then a student would log in and inadvertently turn off, not cycle the power, but turn off the receptacle to the network switch, which is what you need to communicate with to turn it back on. And they would click it, and you could see their face immediately realize what they did, and now realize they have to get on their bike and go halfway across campus to turn that back on.
The people that are screaming, yes, their typical profile has that set. So you in cycle only, it will not let you turn off. So that's the new rev of that. But anyway, yeah.
Until you run into somewhere the firmware is all weird and you can't reliably get the little reset switch to go, and so you have to do an off, wait 5, turn back on, and every now and then that doesn't fire properly. That's fun.
I will say this, this integration, it solves a problem we have with some of the technicians where their gut reaction is, well, I'm going to reboot the switch, or I'm going to just kind of fire the power. And it's like, okay, whoa. Before you do that, maybe you could just cycle the PoE to these specific things, or we could even do a preset. I could see there being an advantage to being able to gracefully back out.
That is one of the benefits where you can be more targeted with your support approach and say, oh, if it's just my encoder or just my decoder, like just that thing. We don't have to like nuke the whole room and start over again.
Just nuke that son of a bitch.
And if it's on the enterprise, the only way to nuke it is to unplug the thing down in the IDF closet, and it only takes 25 minutes to come back online.
Right.
Don't worry about it.
It's like half the class. That'll be fine.
That was what I was getting at. Like some of these switches we're discovering, it is not the good old 8x8 back in 3 or 4 minutes. It is 7, 9 minutes on occasion. And when you've got 50, 100, 280 people in a room, feels like a double eternity. It's just
time to tap dance.
Only to your technicians, Richard, not to you in your office.
Well,
Don't
right.
worry about it. You're good.
I'm on the phone from home, just phoning it in near the beach. It's great.
Just hit that network button from your desk, and everything resets, and everything's good.
It's taking a long time. Well, it's because I'm remotely turning it off as well. Sorry.
I'm in Cancun.
Haven't been any tickets for 20 minutes.
Electrons have to get there and then get back to me. It's going to take a while.
And I tell people that here, especially on our older systems that have low power switches and things like that do take 7 to 10 minutes. It's like, this is the nuclear option. It will most likely fix whatever the problem is. However, you've not really diagnosed anything. You're rebooting the entire thing. It'll all come back. It'll be fine. You don't really know what caused that, but you're going to lose 10 to 15 minutes of your class time right now. So
Perfect.
your call.
Yes.
Nuke it. Shut down.
All right. So anyway, there's our news from Extron. Exciting ability to nuke things from orbit.
We're going green.
All right. Well, we'll take a quick break. Come back. We're going to have Richard play a little bit guessing game of who the heck did this?
Who done it?
Hey, you. Yeah, you with the weird AV issues that need fixing. Listen up, because this is the last time I'm going to say it. Are you tired of your electronics acting like they were put together by a bunch of monkeys with soldering irons? Well, guess what? You're in luck, pal. Introducing Independent Amalgamated AV Integrations, where we barely meet industry standards and still manage to stay in business. Look, we know you have a choice when it comes to who handles your AV, but let's be real here. Are you really going to trust some slick-talking, overpriced company with your precious gadgets? I didn't think so. At Independent Amalgamated AV Integrations, we promise to half-heartedly install your stuff with just enough competence to not get sued. And if you're lucky, it might even work for a little while. So, if you're ready to settle for mediocrity and save a few bucks in the process, give us a call at 555-GET-OK or visit independentamalgamated.com. And remember, at Independent Amalgamated AV Integrations, we're just good enough to not completely ruin your day. Maybe.
Welcome, new sponsor to the show there.
Independent
we signed that contract.
They're doing
That's a
good
good
things.
contract.
They're doing good, yeah.
Those guys at Independent Amalgamated do
Can I buy their
work.
stock? Let me go to
They
E-Trade
should be
real quick.
AV Manufacturer of the Year.
They should be.
They should.
Integrators of the Year award.
Their
I can
stock
see it.
is minus 250.
Jamie, would you be interested in hearing from Independent Amalgamated in about 30 minutes about another fine new product? Because it's gonna be
Actually, my interest is piqued.
happening. All right.
My interest is piqued. I'll be looking for their booth.
Stay on the edge of your seat.
IP over AV. It's a totally
injected it backwards.
Oh,
Yeah.
HDMI tried that. It's a failure.
Yeah, we're going old school. We're going to do that over
a whole
VGA.
network in my house based on just HDMI cables. That's what all the
right,
network
so,
is.
We're going to turn this little segment over here to Richard for a little bit. So, Richard, you were recently escorted off the BIAMP campus after many years of fine service and asked to please stay out of the state of Oregon in general.
2 or 3 deputies. 2 or 3 deputies.
To the state line.
encouraged to find employment elsewhere. Yeah, great.
Just handed you a box one day and we said, we've put all your stuff in this box. Please get out. You reached out a few weeks ago and you said, you know what would be a good idea for a segment would be like if you guys all came up with like some of the worst things you've ever done and then like everyone has to guess. And after you and I went back and forth a little bit and I was like, great, this sounds like something for you to figure out. So what the five of us on the call, what we've done is we have each semi-anonymously or as best we could come up with short versions of stories of things that we have done that are all truthful, and we've compiled that into a document which we've sent to Richard, which is probably about 3 pages long, something like that.
It's like 7.
Novel.
Yeah.
It's a novel.
It's a lot. It's dense, and we're going to ask Richard to kind of pick a couple of these, and he could take his best guess as to who he thinks did this. And the rest of us are going to play along because in a lot of cases, we don't know either, though there's some are pretty clear. And I will just say, we'll just ask the guilty party in this sense to also play along and not give it away until we can kind of get a little discussion out of it. And then you'll have to admit your guilt and explain what was going on.
Just what the hell happened.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Thanks for teeing that up, and appreciate the notification that I should not be sending you new ideas. So in the future, just ignore it. Great.
I'll warn anybody, you send an idea, you probably end up on the show having to actually make said idea go.
That gets us out of a week of planning. And then this happens. Yeah.
That's what happens.
So I have a long list of issues here, and I'm just going to start at the top, and we'll see where we get. Number 1, an electrical contractor who is unfamiliar with AV low voltage work didn't look at the system drawing, and instead of running the specified 16-gauge cable in series for each speaker in a distributed audio system, they home ran numerous heavy gauge solid core 6 or 8 gauge cables to each speaker. Nope, I'm not seeing the problem at this point. Due to the project schedule, rather than remove the re-pull the proper cable, we instead terminated all of the heavy gauge wire into a big barrel. This is great. Strip wire jumpers and connected them into a single channel and then ran the single line to the amplifier. It's likely in use.
This is like a bus bar system.
This is like, this is more, I think it feels like as long as it's gold cabled at the ends and from Monster, this should be fine.
Yeah,
should
I'm
be,
thinking it's all
should be
taken
fine.
into a wall panel, electrical panel, and you can say,
Was this all like
lobby's off. Click.
Was this all THHN cabling, I'm assuming, I guess? Probably.
This had to be the most expensive install. But
It's solid core, double aught. Don't worry about it.
It's feeder cable, right? Just run that shit.
As you pull the cable, it rips the J hooks off all the lines.
I can see all this sitting on the ceiling tiles, bowing along.
It's like shit.
So
Pull harder, Jimmy.
just this is this feels like a project I might be involved with, but I
don't think you can claim any of these as yours though.
I know,
Maybe.
but so many of them, as I was reading through in preparation, I was kind of like, okay, I've never done any of these terrible things that I'm about to chat about, of course. My mind for this one gravitates toward Chris. I'm thinking this has got to be a you. Is where my mind goes initially, only because time constraint, kind of shady cable, but you knew it kind of work, maybe.
The reality is, Chris has been everywhere, so he's seen a version of all this.
That's where my head went. Ooh,
sorry.
Is that the good sound?
Very ominous.
Is that the bad
I hit the
sound?
wrong button. I meant this one.
Oh,
There you go. Yes, this was me. This was my
You got
story.
that right.
Jamie, surprise! This is at your fucking campus. So, enjoy this one.
You don't know
this
where,
was
though.
at, I can't remember the name of the project or where it was, but there was that dorm built north of campus, obviously about 10 to 12 years ago. And they have a gym in the dorm.
It's not
with
there anymore.
Really? It burned down that fast?
No.
Because of that cabling.
It was one of the infamous mold plumbing disasters that it was just cheaper to raise it than it was. So
you're saying I solved the problem.
But they kept the cable, though, right? We built
the
around
cable
that.
is still there. It is structural. No, so they, instead of having either the internal IT team or hiring a proper AV integrator for this, the GC just had his EC do the work. The EC had never done low voltage work like this. So even though we gave them all the documentation, they just home ran structural building wire to each speaker
What do you got
location.
on the truck, Billy? I got this shit.
Pretty much.
Let's run it.
Using
Yeah,
probably,
you know,
my guess is a huge spool of cable to do this. And at the end, we're standing there and he's literally showing me this bundle of like 24 home runs that he's done. And we're like, that's not going to work at all. So we just got a couple of barrier strips, jammed everything in there, jumpered it together, ran one output from that as a summed out to the speakers for the distributed audio system, and it worked fine. And it's probably still there.
What distance are we talking about here? Are we talking about enough
very far.
cabling for a small house, or
It would have been, yes.
Probably by the time they were done, yeah. I want to
it
say
would
there
have
was
been.
18 or 20 speakers in this. Well, maybe not that many. 16 to 20 speakers in there. Wow.
Yeah. And you know, until you said, and now I kind of remember this debacle, but it was just long enough ago.
Just got it out of your mind, and now it's back.
And since the building's gone, I've not had to deal with it, but I kind of remember this debacle.
Yeah.
Yes,
okay. So 100%. Great. All right. Let's jump on to number 2. I had a need for a real-time quotes on that, so I'm already a little concerned. Streaming video solution. Granted, this was 15 years ago, so this was a relatively new field for us to delve into. I ordered up a few demo units and started the process. Tested it on a small switch in the room. No problem. Decided to give it a real-world spin. Plugged the thing into the jack on the wall and let it pump video out into the whole wide world. Within 15 minutes, the ticketing system exploded. The network access, with network access problems, email server was bogged down. The networking walked over to our building to see what device was flooding the network with multicast and causing an internal denial of service issue. Whoops. I learned a lot about multicast that day. So
Did I really though? Oh wait.
did you, or
Who hasn't done this? Everybody's done this.
me?
I haven't. I haven't
like
done
it
this
It
yet.
happens everywhere.
Justin's just sandbagging because this was him. So
The
Not
game
someone
is
on
afoot.
campus yelling, "Don't do that! You're going to regret it." And those.
But that's how
15
you
years
know,
ago,
because you're the one who did it.
know.
Yeah.
15 years ago, you were like, shit, works for YouTube. I got this.
I came from network administration, so
He knows. He knows.
I knew a
I
little
am.
bit about it.
I'm 100% in on. I'm gonna bet all of my points, which is 1, on Jamie. You seem like a dice roller, and I could see you being like, "Hey, worked on my little switch. I'm gonna switch it on over
Put
to
it out to the world.
Jamie does
Register
like
it.
to gamble at Costco.
boom." And you have a penchant for like, "Oh, NDI, I can do that. Plug it on in. Let's
Hold
see
my
how
beer. I'll put
it
that shit
doesn't
on
work
right now.
It doesn't work the way I
well,
thought it would.
let's just say that the VBrick encoder at the time did not.
wait, so was this Jamie? Was this a Jamie problem?
It was a Jamie problem.
Oh,
2 for 2. Damn.
Yeah, the entire network crew, they shut the port off. But
As it should have automatically shut off if they were doing their job.
Well, it's 15 years ago, so they shut the port off. The irony here is that
Is the port still off? Did they ever turn it back on?
because
It's melted. It never came back.
because
They still talk about that.
well, the thing that sucked is that yes, Mark, it does automatically shut it off. But me being a smartass went in and moved it to the other.
Went down the wall. What the hell's going on here?
I went through 10 or 12, and
Jesus, bro. What?
Something's not right. Put it in the next one.
man.
That port's got to be weird. Let's go to the next one.
it's like, what the hell? it worked for a minute. But so people were putting in tickets that all this wasn't working. Well, the ticketing system was based on the email, but the email wasn't sending it. So as soon as the email server caught up, there was like 200 tickets on how internet wouldn't work because it wouldn't work because they couldn't put in a ticket. So it was just self-perpetuating issue. And I had the guys came over and we're like, okay, don't do that. And what was it? And so they went through this whole process and they said, please don't do that again. That's like, well...
But that was an IP-based thing. I mean, have you done it with like HD-based T and had that pleasure as well?
No, I
that is fun. Yeah,
that's what really
Rapid
kicked
spanning
off
tree
my
run
good
wild like
relationship with networking because they were like, "Wait, what are you trying to do here?" I was like, "This." And it was some special event. It had to go off, so we had to figure out how to make this thing work.
So
right?
you broke something, and that started a positive relationship with networking?
Actually, yes, because they were like, "What?"
Because after you were let go from the university, they felt really great. Like that.
Sometimes,
we can get rid of
you
these
fail so spectacularly, it's just impressive.
It was a learning moment. You were able to learn, and we came
like,
together.
How in a minute and a half did you bring down everything?
Yeah, all the penetration testing we've been trying was never that successful. Jamie throws a V-brick on there, boom, the campus is shut down for a month.
Yeah. No, we'll help him.
That's a good idea.
No, I never did that.
First day of classes, just plug that in and wham.
I was in the middle of everything. It was like some random October day.
Finals
I
week.
mean, they were so mad. The rest of the campus was mad, but
I never flooded with multicast, but I did attach a fresh out of the box Raspberry Pi to an external IP address, and within roughly 90 seconds, it was hacked, which was fascinating to see that process. But
and that's why you don't try to Bitcoin mine at work. You don't do that kind of stuff.
And within 20 minutes, there was a person at my desk taking my switch away.
Sir, can you come with me?
Here are the internal IPs that you're allowed to use. So I was already, pushed down in the bottom.
Wait, this isn't routable.
They start with 192.
Everything.
All right, let's jump into number 3 as a prank. Which I enjoyed wrapping multiple long runs of bulk cable into a single spool. When pulling long cable runs, the bulk cable would run out after only 25 to 30 feet and cause all sorts of hilarity. At least I found it hilarious.
This is a quick way to get a black eye in Kentucky.
Doubly so, as some of these booby trap spools were still being found years later.
This feels like kind of like a roadie story. This feels like somebody who might work concert sound thinking it was funny as hell.
Who would never have to be in that city again after they left.
They always come back.
I swapped out his gaffer's tape for electrical tape. Like, I got
They'll
them.
never know.
Instead, it's just people like, what the hell happened to our spool? Oh, okay. So you all know who this is or no?
Not this one.
No, this one's new.
All right. I feel like this seems like a Kentucky thing. I'm leaning in on Justin on this one. This just seems like a minor thing, but that you might get
like a gold miner thing, or like
like a
under 18 and doesn't know any better.
Under 18.
I just said this is a great way to get a black eye in Kentucky.
Usually that means because you learned it.
I thought you were pulling a I've got them.
No.
All right.
All right, who's going to fess up to this one?
I know who it is.
Mark knows who it is because it was fucking me.
Because I've been on the other end of that fucking skit before.
So I started by at the end of installs, I'd grab all the, you have 20 feet here, 10 feet there, whatever, and I would bundle all that together on a single cable spool to clean it up, to just get stuff off the job site. And then I started like putting that back on the stack, and then I would forget about it. And about 2 weeks later, someone would be like, "God damn it, get fucking booby trap cable." So, and then I left a bunch of them there, and Mark would text me for probably 2 or 3 years afterwards, pissed about that. So.
It was always the word, like, all right, we got to get 2 or 3 cables. We need 75 footers, and we get halfway through that bitch. And it was like, what the?
We got 20 minutes. Let's do this.
Yeah.
We got the time, and
just splice it there and keep going.
I think one time somebody called this is a defective box of cable or something like that. It was like this is bullshit. Called back and I was like, yeah, ha ha ha, Chris.
I think it's funny. I still think it's funny.
Sure.
I'm sure this group and probably at least a dozen other people in the United States find this hilarious. All right.
Sure. 2 people out there. Chris.
First year on the job, I was hot shit. This goes for everyone in this. So like, oh yeah, I'm great at this. The best technician ever, and I was sent to set up a conference projector and sound system in a local hotel. No
I think you skipped one,
problemo.
but keep going.
Oh,
Keep going. It's okay.
I'm just going
It's
to keep
selection, Justin. We can't get through them all.
He can pick whatever ones he wants. Yeah.
I get this. I got this. Oh, what's this say? I got this. I loaded up the cargo van. The van was a technician's dream. Ladder rack, lift gate, reverse beepy noises. Quite nice. No extra seats. Very nice. All metal interior. The free candy written on the outside. I'm ad-libbing a little bit on that one.
Puppies and candy. I'm get it.
Rattle spray can. Anyway, I'm rolling up the street and find my entrance into the hotel parking structure. Bam! What the hell? That day I learned the ladder rack is 7'10" tall and the gate is 7'9" low. I quietly reversed and the beeping van and slinked out of the surface lot. All right. Justin's gone quiet. Do I lean into that?
It does
Okay.
sound like Kentucky Fried Chicken, doesn't it?
But I feel like in Kentucky, you would have pushed on the gas and just gone like you've committed at that point. You can't back away from.
It's broke. My brother is a gate person.
Like, let me get my gate kit out of the back of the truck and fix this up for you.
Sweet truck. It's got all the stuff.
I could also, this might be a Mark. I could also see this like, okay. All right, I'm going to lean into Mark on this one. I'm going to say Mark. Final answer.
I have done some shit. I've done things like this in vehicles.
You're saying it was not you?
This one was not me. I've been along for the ride while this kind of shit has happened before, but this one was not me. I've seen people rebuild box trucks and such like that because they ripped the top off. Allegedly.
All right,
who was it?
That's me.
up, Justin. Oh,
Jamie?
It's Jamie.
It was the hot shit that gave it away.
yeah.
I was leaning towards this being Larry because I'd not heard the story either. But then when it said I was hot shit, that's not something Larry would say.
No.
Yeah. I thought I was hot shit. I was on my way, man. I turned into that parking garage. Wham! And then you have that second of, and I got out, and the security guard did meet me there, and he looks up, and he goes, just a ding.
For a moment, you're like, I think you're hoping it's something
quiet-
else. You're like,
There's no
maybe it was
quiet
something
way to
else.
get out of that
Sound
because
like a ding.
you put that van at the beep, beep. So everybody knows that you just crushed that gate.
No other damage though. Just kind of a big scratch. But did it really bounce you? Like, did it really catch it and jerk the whole thing or no?
It was just enough to, and I didn't have a ladder on it, so it was just enough, and it kind of cleared the gate. So now the gate's in between the two supports
So
for the
you gotta
ladder.
get it again.
So
one way
we
or
had to
another.
kind of use the ladder rack and get it to drop in a little bit outside of the lock position. It'll drop a little, and then I could back it out. But I did feel like an
didn't it? Yeah, it hurt your pride.
Yeah, and it's been a few years. That was when I first started there.
I just had to retake our truck training, so that was quite literally number 2 is make sure the clearance of the truck is appropriate for the space.
I was
all the-
pretty
All the
sure it was
lights
going
out
to
there
clear.
measuring. Yeah.
feeling pretty good about that one.
I mean,
All
it
right,
was
Let me tell you
posted. I was
about
good.
my next prank where I went from vehicle to vehicle and I changed all the little maximum height signs inside the vehicle to a different height. So.
Oh man,
they're all just put a 1 in front of whatever numbers there.
I do actually on
There
the
you go.
bridges. I just
Says we
make
got
the bridge.
180 feet to go.
All right. I have been shocked by working on pulling cable simply by touching the ceiling grid. Someone didn't properly inspect something. I would love to say, oh, I'm shocked by this. I don't quite follow what's happening here. I would imagine everyone here has been shocked by the grid at some point. I've been on multiple occasions. All right. I guess
like multiple answers would work here.
I'm gonna say Larry on this one. This seems like a thing he would write down.
I actually didn't write it, but as you were saying, I have done this.
This could be a royal flusher. I think this has everybody here had this happen. Have you all been latched onto a grid from doing level?
Not the grid.
No, not the grid. I've never been shocked by the grid.
We just recently had it.
I got
this summer
smoked by the grid.
But I've had a floor box get me. I've had a poke through get me, and then I've had the electrician, whoever put in the blind system, put all of the low voltage connections in the same box as the 110, and I opened up the box to take it out, and I put my fingers in there and wrapped around the 110 because they stack like 5 boxes on top of each other, and I'm like, well, I can't see what's in there, and just my dumb luck when I first reached in, and it was terrible. It didn't use wire nuts. I was so mad, but not a grid. I haven't gotten the grid.
I think I go into the grid assuming that it's live, and then I back out from there, like
not touching anything.
Just
like, okay,
do the quick touch, and no, it's 120. Okay,
I've started touching with the back of my hand every time, just in case.
Yeah, and that's also a great way to remove ceiling tile because the front of your hands are dirty.
Don't use your finger.
Lift it with the back of your hands.
So, Larry, I do that, except I grab one of our student employees and hold them up.
Push them through it. I just tear the ceiling tiles down, just slash them and trash them and break them. I'm notorious for
liability insurance for students is way better than employees.
Justin, was it the whole grid or just a section of the grid? Because I've discovered most of the issues are related to just an area of the grid.
The whole son bitch.
Oh,
it was lit up.
Bonus.
The whole thing.
Bonus.
Yeah,
it's a heating system.
We had a old video broadcast guy that had his electrical license from like 1970 that was still practicing, right? Air quotes. And so he would go around and modify electrical, and that was
he was practicing.
Yeah,
practicing for his exam.
He's like,
again.
Oh, I need a new circuit in my office, and I'll just go rob.
Let me see what happens if I do this. I'm sure
gotta
he
go.
It's
landed
lunch.
a neutral or something on the ceiling.
I thought
grid.
you were going to say that this was somebody's cheap way to make a lighting grid.
No, this was
they didn't
straight
want to
up
pay
like
for
I got blasted just by touching the ceiling grid, and I was like, so I started looking around. I was like, yep, there it is.
Did you get attached to it? Have you been like that?
Oh no,
that's the real shit. Like when you get
I got
latched
attached,
onto,
but to let go, I had to forcefully let go, which means I jumped off the 8-foot ladder and landed on my back.
That's how the back incident happens.
It's the ladder that'll get you.
It was like cartoon episode type shit.
I've got attached to some lighting stuff, like some production stuff before, where it's the sound in your mind when you're stuck to that thing is definitely intense.
So this next one, again, shocking that this has happened to anyone. In multiple installations, when an amplifier dies, gets swapped, etc., or gets temporarily installed in place of others, or for any other variety of reasons, I'll drive front of room point source program speakers in dual mono rather than matched stereo channels. I always say I'll go back and fix it later, but I never do. My response initially was, we just do it mono from the beginning and never bother. We'll come back and make it proper stereo in the future. And then we just don't.
This sounds luxurious for like Western Kentucky standards.
Yeah. But
well, we know who it's not.
No, it's no.
I'm going to go back to the well of thinking it's Marc. This seems like a Marc thing that would be like, oh, we're busy. We should get back there. We're gonna get there, and then semester.
Well, that part of like doing shit that we're never going to come back for. Yeah, but that's everything.
But it's like it's like the show. It's always fun. It's always sunny in Philadelphia. Like we'll come back for you. It's like we're never going to come back for you. We're leaving you.
No, I don't act. Have I done? I'm thinking I had not actually done this. So I could see maybe this would have happened, but again, this is not me. So.
Wow.
Sorry, but yeah, there's probably something. We've definitely done some stuff.
Working. Oh, there it is.
I like Richard's faith in Marc's ability to do his job.
You fool some of the people all the time, but not all people.
No, this one's me again. And I just did a room like this about 2 weeks ago because when the amplifier died, we're starting up a new building. It's like, great, well, you have 2 mono channels now. Deal with it.
And it was probably fine.
For most applications, yes, but it's one of those things in the back of your mind. You're like, that's really supposed to be stereo. I want to go back and fix it. But yeah, do you ever get there? I don't know. Maybe.
Standards are too high. Do you need stereo in a classroom? Does it have to be stereo?
You're the one who's like fighting for like, I want stereo in program audio at the front of the room.
2 speakers up there pushing sound across the room.
We just discovered a room literally this last week that had been kind of wired incorrectly. And our solution, instead of, it was supposed to sum stereo down to mono and feed it into the DSP. And it was just wired incorrectly.
And so you do that just by stacking them. That's how it works.
Oh, perfect. But they, really interesting where you couldn't hear the people speaking, but you could hear the music playing. I love that.
The center was gone. I love when people take stereo unbalanced and jam it into a balanced single connector. It's my favorite thing to come across.
Number one rule in AV, 2 unbalanced, 1 unbalanced plus 1 unbalanced equals balanced. That's how it works.
Right. 2 sides of the equation.
They thought that was, right now, if you go into that conference room, kind of to this question of today, you will get left audio. And if you're not getting in the room today.
I was in Tessera training at Biamp years ago, and there was an integrator there. He's like, I do that shit all the time. I was like, that's not how it works, man. He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, it's like there's sound when I leave. I was like, I'm not doubting there's sound when you're done. That's just not how it works. And it erupted in this massive discussion. He's like, no, I don't believe you guys. I was like, you're wrong. Like, I just want to let you know you are wrong.
The worst he part went on to sell millions.
Yeah, he's millionaire. He's a millionaire. Yeah, he was like doing one of those big chains, like the Dave and Buster's or some shit like that out there. I was like, wow.
Every Macy's in the country is now wired incorrectly.
But, it seemed to work. All right. I usually set all PTZ cameras to 1280 by 720 at 30 hertz and all displays at 1920 by 1080 at 60 frames per second whenever possible. I've done this hundreds of times in spaces ranging from seminar rooms to generic classrooms to executive boardrooms. This has no one has ever complained or noticed. Shocking. I'm shocked by this. Especially, we have a lot of Zoom rooms, and we would never set them down to 720p when you're 10, 12 feet
You're
away.
Right. 480 is good enough.
I'm going to lean into I'm feeling a Larry on this one. If it could fall into the Avixa zone, where it's far enough away, or it's fine.
There's no shame in this. Like, this is standard. Right. We all do this. So I'm like,
whoa.
But one person,
all of us who are normal do
My
this.
4K cameras are 4K, sir.
Others, though.
Yeah, one of us preaches this. This is Chris. Has to be absolutely.
Yeah,
this is me. So Richard
it's 1,000%. He's got a whole billboard.
Larry gets this.
All that stuff in the back he has behind him, that's all written like only ever 720p at all costs.
In fact, he has custom EDIDs made that's just 720p.
I have modified EDID files for that, so yes.
Of course you have.
You don't need more than 720p anywhere. I don't care what anybody says. 720p and mono audio solves so many problems.
Get off my lawn. God damn it.
Most importantly, no one has ever noticed.
He started a petition to Apple for the new goggle thing. That's 720. It's 720p.
Yeah.
Retro.
Nobody's ever come back, even another AV person going like,
because they all probably like, well, I guess it's just the network. It just looks like shit. It's just very accustomed to it.
No, well, to Jamie's comment about 480 or 480i even, most of these things end up in getting crunched down to Zoom or Teams, whatever, and looks terrible through a tiny little window anyway. So, but I've been doing this, pre-COVID, this was a thing. So 720 for cameras and 1080 for all display systems.
Yeah, 1080 is all you
cannot disagree.
It gets it done. Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100% of the time works every time.
Somebody eventually is going to make like a 4K camera that the dip switches on the back don't go to 720, and I'm sending that back.
Get rid of this goddamn thing. It's broken.
Out of principle, I'm going to put a scaler on the back of that and scale it up.
Back of the camera.
Get 720.
One of the first large jobs I was a part of was a new large law school. I was new and on site after drywall was up throughout the building. All of the classrooms were hard decked and 20 feet high. Low voltage wiring poles for the screen controls were not on the drawings. I was convinced to tie a cable to my belt. This tracks. To my belt and climb up conduit in the rack, closets, and work my way across the conduit to the opposite side of the room where the screen controls were. I did this for at least 5 rooms, right? I feel like when you're committing a crime, you may not want to acknowledge that as a thing that you've done. But is this a crime? I don't think maybe it's not a crime, but I'm sure there are some codes.
There's probably a violation or 7.
All right.
Tie a cable to my belt.
Okay, this has got to be Larry. Larry seems like a cable belt
wearing kind of guy.
He seems like,
I had just graduated from college.
I got it.
I could
climb that.
gym. And so I climbed all the time anyway. And the lead technician didn't want to tell anybody that cable wasn't there. And I was young and dumb, and it was like 25 years ago now. And so he was like, "Hey, you climb, don't you?" "Yeah, why?" "So let me do this.
Here's something to climb."
Yeah.
Wow.
Did anyone give you a second look or no?
Yeah, I know. I've done this. But
I didn't tie anything to my belt.
Well, if you climb across without the cable, what's
like a normal
point?
person, put it in your teeth and get to going.
Yeah, Larry, that raised a good question. Is tying it to your belt, was that so you could drag the cable with you, or was that
so they could get him back if he got stuck somewhere?
No, because I needed both hands to climb. I mean,
I thought maybe that was your safety in case you do come crashing down.
no, it's just
No,
there's a 2-conductor and shield tied to my belt. I'm fine.
It'll hold.
I have sadly done similar, because you look around the room and you're like, well, I'm 100 nothing, I'm 5 foot nothing. I guess I'm the one going.
Exactly. The size things, like the 2 smallest people in the group, we've both done it because we draw the shortest straws.
I've also shimmied down behind walls and had to get out of there.
I'm sure we're all guilty of being on some just broken down old classroom equipment, the tables or a desk that probably shouldn't have a 200-pound person on top of it. But
ceiling grids will hold a lot of weight, Richard. Don't worry about it.
You'd be surprised.
They
hold a lot of weight.
I've seen people do this up genie lifts for events and stuff, and climb across lighting structure.
Oh, that's different,
which
man.
Is
Those
wild,
guys are freaking.
But not the cross
riggers will do some
members
wild
on
stuff
them.
up there.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I'm certified rigger. Yeah, that means you're crazy as shit.
Cool, bro. And just kind of walk away.
You know what? I'm going to be over there.
I once pissed off the CIO by spending $3,000 to have 2 single gang boxes cut into a wall in their office in preparation for a small artwork collab system. Because they said, make it look clean, and I don't want to see any wires. And then left for a European vacation for 3 weeks. All right. I would imagine this would have to be European. I feel like you're giving me all the breadcrumbs to follow on this one. I'm going to lean on Justin. Justin again. Is this a Justin?
No.
Just no.
Justin
Mark?
would go on a European vacation.
No, it wasn't me that went on a European vacation. It's my CIO.
Oh, the CIO.
Oh, yeah. Well, you're missing a word there.
Yeah, it's okay. We'll get it in post.
We'll fix it.
Yeah,
That changes a lot about that statement.
I don't know if it does. She was very upset.
It's not as good a story.
But
It would have been better if you were like, here's the bill. Bye-bye.
That's kind of how it happened. She came back and was like, what the fuck is it? For 2 boxes that cost $3,000, that's actually $3,500 when it's all said and done. It was a firewall. So she wanted it in the firewall, and then all of her keepers were gone. So like,
and the electricians
I guess we're just going to do it. She said, get it done. And it was like, okay, here we go. And
I look at that 3,000 and I'm like, yeah, that's our going price for 2 grand. Like to put 2 boxes in, way. $3,000. Yep.
She was very, very, very pissed off when that happened because it was. She's like, if I would have known that, I just said leave the cable there. I was like, well, you said you
should have known there was a firewall.
Yeah, exactly. Well, nobody knew it was a firewall until they dug in there went to go clean it. So I was like,
should have known that.
Should have known. So
all right,
it's still there. We'll be working in that room in 2 weeks.
Once filled the gas tank of a 20-foot box truck full of event production equipment with diesel fuel before heading out to another state for a large event. Oddly enough, the truck survived just barely. This went on to be called the Great Diesel Gas Hybrid Experiment of 2005. I am guessing this is a gas truck that has been fed some diesel.
Only smokes a little, don't worry.
It gums it up. It's good. It's good for the lungs.
Need some lubrication in there. It's fine.
So who hasn't done this?
Who hasn't? I'll be honest. Who hasn't tried this, but then figured out quickly there's a compatibility issue going on here? I give this
as
person
a prank several times.
Why does this gas look green? Like, that's weird.
Is it normal for me to need to bring my own little hose extender? Is that maybe I'm?
Why doesn't this fit?
I feel like half of this game is me just like embarrassing whoever I call on here. It's like, hey, who do I get to call a dummy on this one? I love this game. I'm Chris. Is this a you?
No, but I know who it is.
Yeah.
Man.
This is me. So this was... I'm 22 years old, whatever. We're going to do gig, whole thing. Sound
all you
like
had to do was say, I was 22 years old, whatever.
So now,
and then just stop there.
Now the owner of the company did replaced the entry nozzle with a diesel size nozzle on the tank.
Whoa, wait a minute.
Why would he do that?
Because it was cheap, and so
because that's what he had.
So this thing was on
diesel was cheaper, so you want to save some bucks.
This thing was like on E. I went there, filled it up like to the brim with diesel, and literally got in, turned it on. I was like, dude, you know what? I'm pretty sure I just filled this fucking thing with diesel. I'm like, we're gonna be fine. It's running. Let's go.
It should be fine.
Yeah, we're just gonna be fine. And then we got like a mile, and all of a sudden it's running real rough. And I'm just like, you know what? And this is like 22-year-old bro concept math. I'm like, diesel's just dirty gasoline. We just got to get like some octane booster, bro. Let's go get some. We'll pull over at this gas station and get some like octane booster. So I go in and I find this thing.
Putting more shit in here.
Dry gas.
Yeah. So I pull over to the next gas station, like 2 miles up the road. And I find this like cleaner stuff, and it says, "Hey, stops dieseling." I was like, "Dude, this is what we need. This is exactly what we need." So I got like 2 or 3 bottles threw that shit in there. Proceeded to drive like 120 miles. It ran. It fucking drove 120 miles to the gig. Running like shit, smoking like hell, and we had to like floor it. We had to have it like full blast for it to go. And here we are ripping through like 78 through Jersey, going, and then we get there.
We
like,
don't
cool.
need no governor. Just put some diesel in there.
We just have to go. We have to keep going. And so then we get to the gig, do the whole thing, and we go at the end of the night. We're like, fuck, this thing. It like will start for like 30 seconds, and it won't stay running. And then we're like, all right, you know what? It probably just separated. We have to mix this shit up.
Shake that
so here we are, like shaking the truck, trying to get this thing to mix.
Separated.
And then it gets running. So my partner's in the lot doing loops at like 40 miles an hour through the parking lot to keep the thing running. And so we're trying to load it. I'm like, all right, stop. We're going to push some gear onto it and then go. Keep moving. This is 3 o'clock in the morning. Here we are, a bunch of assholes spinning around the parking lot with this thing. It made it home. No shit, the thing made it back. So I in the night report, I'm like, yo, something's wrong with your fucking truck, bro. I don't know what's going on with
Dropped off the keys and said, truck's running rough.
What happened?
I don't know.
Your truck is foobarred.
This story explains why Jersey doesn't let you pump your own gas anymore.
Don't know. So years go by, and like he like just put the thing out the pasture. Somebody bought the truck, I guess, from him, and let them know, like, a couple weeks, hey man, did you know that somebody put diesel in your truck?
You're like, no way, really? What asshole would do that?
And for years, it got blamed on somebody. I just let it ride. And I'm like, nah, I don't know, it just didn't work.
So after shaking the van, and you're like, oh, let's go back onto the road.
Yes.
Were you was that like a confirmation? Like, yeah, that's shaking. That's
it worked.
What did it.
Yeah, we just had to get it to mix up so you get some gasoline in with that diesel. You know, you just it makes it work.
Mixed in with it. Yeah.
But we need to
He's
burn
been
it out.
filling most
right?
of his cars with diesel since. He just has the kids
works.
go out there.
I'm saving so much money. You have no idea how much money I'm saving. This thing is on a diesel.
It was like 5-to-1 mix.
Dude, the smoke coming out of like
diesel.
the dog house on that thing, like it was bad. It will work though. So, if in a pinch, all you have is diesel.
Just shake it.
2 thumbs up.
I got it.
Go for it. Yeah, just make sure it's mixed.
Shake it till you make it, huh?
Yeah, the shit works.
So I think we've got time for maybe one more. I'm not the timekeeper on this. I'm the guest. You're supposed to be yelling at me. Anyway, I once bricked an MP2E on a large job site by remotely forcing QM-RMC firmware into it. This has got to be a Larry thing. I'm 100% all my money into Larry.
Yeah, this was the summer I took over programming for my whole company, and I was doing large job in Illinois, large job in Indiana, and then this one was out in Columbus. And I was working crazy hours, got there, needed to push firmware to the entire building. All the rooms were QMRMCs except for one. And I just had that IP address mixed in there with everything else. Like after
Select
5 times
all,
of trying
go.
to force this, it still didn't go.
Yeah.
And I was just
Take
trying
it.
over
You
and over
take it.
again. Eventually it took it. And it didn't
It
work.
just gave up and said, fine.
You know, I'm with you. I did the same thing. I loaded the wrong card into a DM chassis or firmware. I was like, they're all the same damn card.
Yeah.
Boom, boom. And then when I had to call Crestron, they're like, dude, how did you even do this?
They're like, look at
just
this,
kept
guys.
hitting the
Exactly the
button
same conversation.
until it went.
I was like, how did you let me do this?
Yeah.
Well,
But I've done the same.
Should we keep going, or how are we doing?
I think we need to have another one of these someday.
Yeah.
You want to save these?
one more just for fun? Or we're gonna save them. We'll get your
save
call,
them.
Richard. You
Let's save them. This is a lot of fun. I feel like I need to sprinkle in a handful of mine in the next go if
You can
I'm
bring your own
invited
stories
back
in.
to the next
All
one. Yeah, that'd be great.
Well, cool.
Hey, any friends of the show, if you've got some embarrassing stories you don't mind us sharing, go ahead. Let us know.
We'll keep you secret. Just send them in. Nothing's out of line.
We should do an Infocom show. Learn from our
should.
mistakes.
No, you don't have to learn from them. Let's just
Like
talk
a
about
whole
mistakes.
counseling thing, but it's just us telling stories.
AV catharsis.
I could tell. I could tell my jail story.
No, you can't.
No, do not tell that story.
Not that one. I have pushed Biamp firmware to the wrong room on multiple occasions, to the point now where I'm a little paranoid whenever I'm like, I double check, triple check, do the locate thing before.
Because once you hit go, it's 25 minutes till it's over.
Remember the dual AVB version that was back? That one was miserable. Yeah.
Even better, it had VoIP at the time, so I had VoIP in 2 rooms. So whenever the calls started coming in, it would ring in both rooms simultaneously. That was a lot of fun. That was great.
Just
Really
send it.
enjoyed that.
That's your number's close enough. Send it. Yeah.
I probably mistyped it before. It's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, well, let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll talk about, speaking of audio, how to make our rooms sound better. And this is a question from a listener out there. So after 3 weeks, we'll finally answer his question for him. But first, it's another fine product from Independent Amalgamated.
Do you find yourself trying to connect to all your audio devices, only to find out they speak different languages? Introducing the Audio Bridge widget by Independent Amalgamated, the ultimate all-in-one adapter that makes compatibility issues a thing of the past. Picture this. You've got a Dante microphone array, balanced analog inputs on your DSP, and embedded PCM audio via USB to a laptop. What's a savvy technician to do? With the Audio Bridge widget by Independent Amalgamated, you can bridge the gap between any audio protocol, bit rate, source, or destination. It's like the United Nations of audio adapters. And guess what? For a limited time, we're throwing in every adapter you could ever need. That's right, every single one. Need to convert from RCA to SCART? No problem. Want to go from USB to XLR? Unbalanced to balanced and back again? Easy peasy. The possibilities are endless. But wait, there's more. Order now and we'll even throw in a lifetime supply of tangled cables. Say goodbye to that old frustrating knot of cords forever with a brand new mass of twisted, intertwined, and ratty cables. Don't let compatibility issues ruin your groove. Get your hands on the Audio Bridge widget today and let the music play on.
Got a whole box of them.
Everyone needs more tangled cables. Mm-hmm. All right, so this was an email from a listener, and they reached out and said, I have anonymized it because I didn't ask if it's okay, but whatever. So blame Steve in Kentucky. No.
I know Steve.
You know Steve?
It's him.
Why don't you go help him?
This is him.
He's Steve from Kentucky.
So.
He's my pool guy.
Yeah.
All right, so the email is, I'm curious if you all have any advice on how to learn to ring out larger classrooms using DSPs like QSYS. I have some larger classrooms that are closer to auditoriums with ceiling speakers located throughout. Guests and professors like to roam around, which is what makes this so difficult. At the back, I think they mean speakers. At the back, the speakers are 10 feet up and 15 to 20 feet up at the front. I've tried boosting the preamp of a mic under the speaker at about 11 feet, but it gets to the point where I'm putting a ton of preamp in to the point I'm afraid it's going to blow the speakers when it starts to ring, even with a peak limiter. Mm-hmm. Ceiling speakers are JBL Control 24 wired in series. The amp is random Crestron, so there's no overload protection. I'm trying to use the notch feedback controller block in QSYS. Is there a class that can teach how to do this, or do I need to make a lab and replicate with a single speaker to find the preamp gain required to induce feedback? I find audio to be the hardest thing to learn about AV when you don't have a mentor. Any advice is appreciated.
Three words for him.
Go for it.
Her, them, they. Her,
yes.
him.
For Steve.
3 words.
Y'all.
Syn Aud Con.
Oh, the training?
Go to that.
So my
That's my answer to that.
Yeah, it's not. You're not wrong.
You're right. If you want to know the science,
that's a very complicated thing to answer. The quickest way to answer that is Syn Aud Con training.
Here's what I do for teaching people really fast. Use your phone. Download the RTA app. Okay, get the RTA app. Put it on your phone, and make sure you have a graphic EQ on your single chain. Literally bring your phone out, find the frequencies reading back, and gut that goddamn frequency out of the EQ.
Yep.
Get it out of there.
Find one, go to AV Buddy. AV Buddy's a great app.
I know it sounds like you're cheating.
$5.
I mean, I mix my rooms like I used to mix monitors on a stage. Loud as I possibly can, gut it out, busted tooth EQ, don't care. As long as it's quantity over quality in some of these instances. We need to get it loud enough. Mix it like rock and roll. I literally, that's how I do it.
You are going to go back and fix that eventually.
Yeah, of course I am. Yes. Yeah. But honestly, it actually does work out. Like if you take that and put the worst case scenario, like when I used to do monitors, I would take that SM58 and put it right into that horn of that monitor, gut it out, get the EQ, gut those out. And pro tip, it's going to be 250, 1K, 1.5, 2.5, and 5K. Get all of those out of there and everything around them, and then mix it like a monitor, and then start from there.
Yeah, and what Mark said with the additional thing, your life is going to be easier if in these large rooms you have multiple zones of speakers. So you're not sending the same thing to the front half of the room as the back half. And if you can separate into 3, even better.
Yep.
That's why when I do distributed audio, Larry, I home run all the speaker runs.
Through big fat cable, right? And
through the heftiest cable I can find.
6 gauge.
So I mean, that was literally how I would take this whole thing. That's how I go into rooms. I do damage control first, and then I sweeten it to make it sound better. I don't I do get unity gain structure. Make sure you understand that whole piece of it. And
I was going to say, that's not even getting into the gain structure side of this, where you keep everything as low as possible, and at the very end, you make up all the gain.
0.775 is the magic number.
There you go.
Set 0.775 volts.
For your microphone voltage, is that what you're talking about?
Line level. That's line level.
I mean, it does.
You
have to
meter
be
that
clean
shit
all
on
the
your
way through
amps
them.
if you're still an analog. Gain structure is solid.
Yep. But then, just go in and don't be afraid to take some stuff out. That's why I think a graphic goes a lot further than a parametric.
Take everything out from 500 to around 2500. You should be fine.
Wait, what? Get that big piece out of the middle. We don't need that for intelligibility.
Don't need that voice
500
range.
to 2500, just duck it all out. You'll be all right.
I don't use any auto feedback suppressor things in my DSP designs at all. Do you all use that kind of stuff?
What?
Only rarely.
Yeah. Rarely.
Because sometimes you end up fighting it as you're trying to adjust things. So
yeah, there's a trick you can do. If you do have like some weird occasional feedback things, you can take it, flip the phase on it, bring it back in, and as you bring that up, it'll actually remove that feedback.
Just by phasing it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's how EQs work.
A lot of spaces, back to Larry's point, I think a lot of spaces that I saw that were incredibly problematic just didn't have, it was all kind of bonded together, all of the space. And they really just, the simple solution would have been having more speakers in the location so that you can really dial that in. And far too often it's like they've already committed to a design, so they're stuck. And it's like the solution is 4 more speakers in this space would have kind of broken it out a little bit more so that you could kind of fine tune it.
And at a certain point, it is physics. You need to move some air. If you're just got a tweeter, I don't care if you have 14,000 little tweeters. If you're trying to move air, you're not going to move all that air. It's just not going to happen. And so if you're undersized speaker, you can easily get to a point where it's going to be very hard to get those things to actually sound good.
Well, and especially on a space with varying ceiling heights and things like that. I mean, having more in that sense, and then driving more drivers at lower volume, giving you more control is going to help too.
Yeah.
Or just to put 2 big ass line arrays at the front and just be like, that's where it is.
But put them on their side, so they're not even like doing the right thing. Yeah.
Right, because it works that way.
Yeah. Exactly.
I guess to the question of training, there's any number of places to train, but I would say stay away from Crestron's training because Crestron is not an audio company.
Just set a practice. Set a speaker up in your office.
Acusis, whichever you're using, have solid training available for the platforms, which you really should be using if you're dialing these in. I don't know. Larry, have you done any of the Extron audio training stuff?
Yeah, the Extron's pretty good too.
Okay.
Literally.
But Justin, to your point, Syn Aud Con is absolutely where you want to go if you really want to get into the weeds of the physics behind how to do good audio. It is still, I think, the gold standard.
If you can't get that training, go find an RTA app on your phone, set yourself up in your office with a microphone, push it into a little powered speaker until it starts to feedback, find out what those frequencies are, start training your ear what those feedback frequencies are so you know what they are. And then you can go into any room and you can hear it right away. And then start pulling it out. Train yourself.
I also recommend just buy some of the stuff off of eBay and just start. You've got to commit at some point to your career and just be like, you've got to get into a DSP that you can properly test these things and make mistakes and break things. And otherwise, you're only going to get so far. Even with a proper training, it's important to get those tools. But if you're not applying it to anything where you're going to maintain some of that knowledge, it's really hard to move forward.
Yeah, you need to be kind of immersed in it as much as possible.
Yeah.
So.
And one other thing,
I learned so much when I started mixing live sound too. Like I was part of the installation and that side of it, but when I moved over to live sound, it just engrosses you in that
because it's 95% damage control. You're like, holy shit!
Yeah, it's like, oh crap, this is real time. I got to fix that.
Yeah.
That person just carried that mic all the way over there. Hey, one other thing to look at, especially, and it sounds like in this particular case, the person is probably inheriting a lot of stuff or trying to make an older space or whatever it is, so they've modified some stuff. Don't also be afraid to remove equipment and look at your actual physical signal chain because there may be some other stuff in there that you're fighting. I mean, you've got as described in here, a random amplifier sort of thing. So it's hard to say what else may be in there. You do have de-embedders and all sorts of stuff. And any one of those could be messing with your signal. And then, a lot of devices have those auto settings where they will try to adjust gain and things without you even knowing about why it's changing and what's going on. And then also, work with the people, if you have particular folks who are problematic at this, work with them because some people have different speaking styles, especially in a microphone. So they hold the mic way down low by their crotch. And so the automatic gain control cranks that back up, and that's going to affect your sound field.
For, man. You have to
I really like that open air
of your
sound.
farts.
Yes. You'll have other people who are just soft-spoken, and the system has to compensate for that. So depending on who's in there, they're going to have different experiences. So you can't tune it for everybody unless, like Larry said, you have someone in there running the live sound system to actually drive that for them.
I'll tune it for everybody.
Yeah, you may have to get in there and look at
that shit down. Radio everywhere. That's what they get.
Yeah, rock concert style.
Yep. So, alrighty. Well, there you go. There's some free advice for Steve in Kentucky. Steve, good luck with those audios.
We survived.
Is that really Steve from Kentucky?
I don't know.
That's Steve.
It's anonymized.
You got the email. Like there should be a name on it.
It's Steve.
I know who it's from.
Yeah. I just assumed everyone in Kentucky chatted
with each other. It's Richard, isn't it?
It's Richard in North Carolina.
Oh boy!
Please help.
On a ladder.
I've taken over an entire campus with terrible audio. I don't know anything about audio. Please help.
Poor guy's been on a ladder for 3 weeks waiting for us to get back to him.
I've been standing there. What's my damn email?
I feel for the people. There were so many fun interactions where it's like, oh, we want voice lift in this room now. Oh, okay, let's have that conversation. All of a sudden it would be like, so all you're putting in are big mic arrays and now you want voice lift. It's like that's not going to work. You haven't changed anything. It's a big mono. No, you can't do that. Well, we already bought the mics. Let's go.
We have $4,000 worth of mics here. What do you mean we can't
do the voice lift? And it's like, I'm like, I was a decent salesman. I wasn't that good though. Like, wow, who sold this to you? This is they need a gold medal.
I will say I have seen that in multiple places. You get the big, the Shure, the Sennheiser, whatever, big mic arrays up there, just acting purely for local voice lift. And technically it sort of works, but you can hear it starting to ring and just not. It's like, why?
Yeah,
it's weird.
Yeah,
it can work. You can dial them in if you want to sit there and tweak on them.
But you can dial it in if you've got the internal know-how to do that. Yeah, you can get there. But if you don't, and you're completely dependent upon an external integrator, you're never going to get there, or you're going to go bankrupt.
Installed in place, plugged in as integrator. Success. Yeah. So like, now
there's
that stuff. Yeah.
There's 50, 60 people in the room. Shock.
Oh, it sounds different. Weird.
Like we actually have a single room doing that, and it works. It's not real loud, but it works well enough that people in the back can hear.
Yeah.
Well, in the newer microphones, with the early ceiling arrays didn't do it very well, but the new ones have their own internal processing that will step on themselves and even shift frequency slightly to avoid some of the feedback. Yeah. But it's still not a great experience. Again, yes, it works. Physically, I can stand in a room and talk, and you can hear me throughout because the microphone 15 feet above me in the ceiling is picking me up and amplifying it. But is that really what we want?
Like a Meyer rig.
We had instructors who refused to wear the lav. So.
There is that. The people who refuse to wear the lav, or they clip it down real low, or they forget to turn it on. I get it. So in that case, I'd always fall back to the secret gooseneck on the lectern. Larry, you've been doing this boundary on the edge of the lectern to kind of capture the people who forget. But
we've gotten complaints about those, so we're actually not doing those as much anymore.
Complaints of the sound, or
I didn't want to be heard. You guys are recording me?
Like
someone's listening.
Everywhere we go, they're like bent backwards on the backside of the lectern.
Well, that's the shifter for the lectern, right? That's how that works.
It's height adjustable. Just
trying to get it into high gear.
Student in the front row really has something to say.
We only got 10 minutes left, folks. We're going to shift into high gear.
All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to roll out of here. We'll come back next week and hear more from Richard and his tales of woe and secret. I don't know, whatever. So
yeah.
I will try to go back, and I did not note which ones we went through based on my knowledge here. I'll go through or I'll flag the ones we did, and I'll put them in the show notes to share the actual text with people. But I'll try to save the rest for a future deep dive into our nonsense.
Richard, thanks for coming on and surviving this madness with us.
Great to be here.
All right.
Stop texting me with weird ideas for shows.
Oh, stop texting?
Okay. Oh, wait, yeah. Thanks, everyone. Well, we've managed to ruin yet another episode of AV Super Friends Off the Rails. You can contact us with questions, topic ideas, or general complaints at mailbag@avsuperfriends.com. If you complain loud enough, we might just invite you on the show.
Nice work, everyone. Sharp broadcast. Really good. Everyone on the floor as well. Really a lot of hustle. I liked it.
The opinions expressed by the AV Super Friends are solely those of the individuals and do not represent their respective institutions, organizations, companies, or clients.